legs, you know, it's just one of those things.
I'd like to call the Board of Selectmen Capital Plan Workshop meeting to order. We've got a pretty robust agenda today, so why don't we start. Just for those in the audience, these are the capital plans, capital plan projects which will be presented to us. For some time, the Board of Selectmen has been compiling and managing a 5-year capital plan project list, and each year that list gets revised. Some things get included in the proposed operating budget under capital, and some things get delayed, pushed off, and occasionally some things wind up, if they're significant enough, in a bond request, which comes in the form of a question at referendum. So let's start off with Youth and Family Services. Lynn?
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you today?
I'm good, thanks.
Great.
So mine's pretty easy. We had slotted for 2019 the exterior painting. We had an initial quote of $15,000, and I'll be working with Steve in the spring to get 3 more quotes on that. The second thing was the first floor carpet replacement. I think it's, it probably still has a couple more years of life, so it can, if the board feels like it needs to be pushed out a little bit, that's fine too. Okay. And in speaking with Rick a couple minutes ago, I know that downstairs they had put in the carpet, they had used the squares instead of rolling out big pieces of carpet. And last year when we discussed this, we talked about the disruption to the building and having to come in on a Saturday. So if we went with the squares, and of course we'd get quotes when feasible, it would be less disruptive and probably less expensive labor-wise to come in on a weekend, because our building is small and very busy. So so that can be pushed out a little bit, because the carpet is still in pretty decent shape.
It is in good shape.
Yeah.
Great. Any questions?
Start the meeting.
Any questions or comments?
It was easy.
Thank you for your frankness and willingness to work in terms
Absolutely.
of pushing.
Yeah. Thank you.
Actually, very
Yes.
quickly, did you say you were getting 3 more quotes?
Yes, Steve and I just spoke, and then
Okay, that's what I thought.
Because this quote is over a year old.
Okay, great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Can I ask, as long as you're getting quotes, it would be interesting to see how much of that cost is the premium for doing the work after hours and on a weekend. It would be interesting to see quotes both ways.
Right.
Oh,
so
sure.
we could quantify,
okay.
yeah.
For the carpet.
And we could,
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, when we do that next year, that's a very good point.
Yeah, then we can make an informed decision.
Just for the heck of it.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much. Next up, Park and Rec.
Morning.
Good morning, Rick. Yeah, we're gonna need another chair up there. All right, thank you. Good morning, Rick.
Well, we have
And
more
Rose.
Good morning, everyone.
So Tony, our park foreman, is with me, and Rose Gossard, the chair of the Parks and Rec Commission. As Mary Jane knows, I always break it down. I separate capital in projects versus equipment. So do you want me to start with
Yes.
with projects?
Yes.
So their paperwork also has it broken out by capital projects and capital
does,
equipment.
okay.
May not be in the exact order as yours, however.
Okay.
Do you want to read off my screen, or you want to go with? You can just wing it. They'll
I'll
figure it
go
out.
for my notes. Okay. So I'll start with the project. So one is the irrigating Adams Little League field. I think we had it in maybe last year, maybe the year before. It was cut out. But we also add in irrigating the soccer field at Adams School. So the reason for both of these, one is baseball doesn't end in June anymore. It goes all the way into August with tournaments, and the league season just doesn't end anymore. It just actually goes to about November.
Rick, how are those fields watered now?
They're not. The infield is. Adams infield, we did that, but we've never done the outfield. So we want to add that. And the soccer field has no irrigation. That soccer field, Tony and I were just talking, is probably 80 to 90% weeds. There's just very little grass there anymore. It's used by the Adams school team. Youth soccer uses it. It's also the outfield of the baseball field, and it's really in bad shape. It's used by phys ed classes every day, from April to June, and again from September to probably through October. So there's a little opportunity for us to get there and really do some work on it. But the missing ingredient is always water. We can seed it, fertilize it, all we want, but if we can't get water on it or get it done when when rain is coming, then it doesn't work out. So that's in there for about $55,000. We also had in there engineering services for the design and construction documents for the redoing the tennis courts at Adams. We've had that in the budget, I think, for a little bit now for the 5-year plan. Redoing the courts, we're going to take them out and rebuild them with post-tension concrete, which is what we used up at the skate park, and that's got about a 20-year warranty on it. So that's just the way to go from now on. I think when we're doing any of these things, we've got to go with post-tension concrete. Excuse me. So the design services are in there for that. But also, we're proposing to build 4 standalone pickleball courts adjacent to the tennis courts there at Adams. Pickleball is growing like crazy. We started that with 8 people about 7 or 8 years ago. We have 120 seniors playing now, and registration over 500 over the course of a year. It's the risk of alienating tennis players. I'd say pickleball is more popular than tennis right now. And it's great because it's mostly senior citizens. We have one senior that's 86 years old, 87 years old playing, and he's very competitive. But they need courts. So that would be the design services for that for about $20,000. Here at the community center, if you remember a year or so ago, we had a study done.
Rick, can I talk about pickleball courts?
Oh, sure.
We currently have pickleball up at Bittner.
Correct.
We have it at Lakes.
Right.
And we have it at Adams.
Yes.
And what about at the high school?
No.
Why not?
Well, we had talked about trying to line for that, and we had some resistance from the athletic director. I think they just, the lines, they wanted to be tennis up there.
Gotcha. Thank you.
And we can't use lakes during the day,
Right.
Because of school. And I mean, Bittner works. It's also a basketball court, so there's that, the conflict if we have kids playing basketball, who gets it and when. Right. And of course, the skate park is up there. Adams is the most used place right now. We do have permission to use Adams during the day. Right. We have so many people playing pickleball now, though. There's just a waiting list.
Rick, when you say people are registering, is there a registration fee?
Yeah.
And so how does that work? You pay for the season, you pay per court?
You pay, like any program, quarterly. So our fall session, spring session, whatever, they sign up. They're here. They're playing here a couple days a week downstairs. Yeah. It's growing like crazy. We've done a couple tournaments. We've got 35, 40 people playing the tournament, and we have different levels. So there's just pickup at times at Adams. There's a certain pickup time where they can go and just play, but we have scheduled times too where we have instruction and we have some leagues that go on.
Can I assume that the lines that you've put on those other courses have come out of the program fees?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there any consideration for using program fees, the surplus in program fees for these for the pickleball courts?
We haven't talked about that.
Okay, I think you probably need to have that conversation at some point.
It's probably not a lot of services.
Okay. Thank you. Okay.
Oh, okay. Sue, I thought you had a question.
No, same one.
Okay. So a couple years ago, we had a study done, a facilities assessment study of this building from floor to roof. And there were a number of recommendations made by Colliers, I think was the company that did the study. And one of them was to redo the ceiling tiles in the Guilford room. So we have that in the budget. It's about $60,000, which includes design and installation of new tiles. The problem with them there is many of them, the problem is that they weren't designed for the kind of use we have in that room. Kids come and play basketball there, balls get thrown up in the air, kicked, whatever. One got knocked out yesterday. Ceiling tile got knocked out, and sometimes they're hanging. There was a time where we had a senior exercise program down there, and a tile came down and just missed a woman who was in the exercise class. It just was hanging, like hanging chad. Came down and dropped down onto the floor there. It's not a system that was designed for the kind of use we have in that room. It was designed more for banquets and meetings, and we have activity in there. And
For $60,000, is there a athletic facility roof system?
I don't know what it would be. It's just, again, this is with Colliers. We talked to them about something that's going to be better than what we have down there is the same thing what we have here. It's the same system. And there's these little like rails that they're on. If a ball or something hits them, they knock off those rails. So I don't know what the system would be, but we've talked with them about something would be more
Robust.
appropriate for the kind of use that we have there. And that's an estimate of what they gave us.
It sounds pretty nebulous. We don't know exactly what they're putting up, and we have a dollar figure.
It was an estimate that they gave us.
No design documents, no material specifications.
That would be part of the design, right?
Was that 60,000 based on what's there now? Basically an in-kind replacement?
No, a different system. And I don't know what I'm sorry, I don't know what the system is, but we told them we needed something that was going to be more substantial than what we have there.
Understanding that kids are playing in there, balls are going to go up, they play all sorts of things. I mean, it's a multi-purpose room, it's a great room, gets a ton of use. It looks terrible with those things loose, but I'd like to know that it is something that is athletic facility capable. I guess that's the interest. For that kind of money, it seems like it should be something pretty sturdy.
Right.
And it would be helpful to get a representation from the builder or the installer.
Right.
In fact, that is being responsive to that use.
If I could, I'm just...
Not the lecture.
Sorry, there is an email here from Will Thompson.
Right.
Replacing the pitch ceiling with reinforced clip-retained suspended system. So basically, it's just it's a similar system, but just reinforced so that they stay in when they get hit. So it's a kind of a double clip system.
And that's the direction we were giving people. It was Will, and it was also Colliers when we talked to them that we needed something that would handle the kind of activity we have in there.
Any form of root cause analysis would suggest that we look at how do we prevent the balls from hitting it. Has anyone talked about netting, drop-down netting, which they put in gymnasiums all the time?
I did talk with Will Thompson about that as an idea. I mean, he's an architect. He said from a aesthetics, he thought it would look terrible in there. But that is something we did talk about.
It has so many other uses.
What's that?
It has so many other uses. I mean, people rent it for
They
parties
have
and
the
things.
systems that the nets drop down. They're
Oh.
pulley systems, so you can put them up when you need them, and you slide them to the sides or along the walls when they're done. Those systems exist in gymnasiums all over the country. So I'd suggest we want to take a look at something like that. I know we have to do something relative to the replacing the tiles, et cetera, but there are other solutions, because I don't want to be here in 5 years.
With the same problem,
With the
I
same
agree.
problem.
No, I agree.
The other problem with the tiles, these tiles, again, they're the same thing. You can't get these kind anymore. So what I've been having Todd do, when those ceiling tiles do get knocked out, if you go down, you'll see some of them are just the white tiles, but I've been having them taking them out of the Quantapog room, because they're also the same as these. So that at least they match down there. So we've been replacing the white ones they've been putting up with the ones from here, so that at least it looks better. We got to come up with something better. It's not conducive to the activity we have in that room anymore.
And if the netting, et cetera, is an investment over and above what you're anticipating, I think it's probably worth considering.
Right. Yeah, I don't disagree. Let's see. So the yellow one we have is slit drains at the sod field. That's the practice football field at the high school, and it's also the lacrosse field. The entire south side of that field doesn't drain well. If you remember, we had some money that we put into drainage on that south sideline. LaFada put it in for us. But the water's not even getting to there. The field just drains terribly. The whole south side of the field, from almost the mid point of the field south to the sideline, stays very, very wet. And Tony will tell you, when our guys are trying to mow it, sometimes they have to pull off because they're leaving ruts. So we put slit drains in at Long Hill Park about 5 or 6 years ago, I think, on the left field or the outfield of the baseball field. It's worked it's been very effective. It's still working well. So we want to do a similar type of plan on the field there at the high school, and that's about $56,000. The company we've been talking with does a lot of work at Fenway Park. They work in like professional stadiums, and they have a very, very good reputation. And we kind of ran this whole thing by them, talked to them about it, and this was their plan of what to do there and how to lay it out. And the last one we had under projects was, again...
But back to that one. Did you... So I see this quote from these folks in Mass. I mean, did you get any other local quotes? I mean, this seems like a sort of a super duper solution to this definitely necessary problem to address. But I mean, I'd be interested to know if there's other folks.
There's only one other company we know that does it. It's the one that did the one at Long Hill Park.
Seems like routine landscaping.
It's slit terrains. It's pretty specific what they do there. But I don't think the price is all that off, Luke, because the one when we did Long Hill, which was much less square footage, that was about $40,000. Wow! So it's 56,000. It's I forgot how many square feet it was. He has it in the proposal there, but it's the entire field.
Yeah.
You know, it's effective. Of course, we're going to have to go out to bid when we do this anyway. But that's we have to have a number for the budget. And that's what we got.
Okay.
The last one on projects for next year was replacing the boilers here in the community center. Again, this was part of the recommendation from that Collier study. They'll be 27 years old at that point. There will be reduction. We have 5 boilers now. It'll be knocked down to 2 or 3. Steve and I were talking about that a little bit. We don't know the exact number till they really get in here and look at what they're going to do. But it's all going to be part of energy efficiency. The boilers now are a lot more efficient than the ones from 27 years ago. So this would include all the the piping, expansion tanks, replumbing, 2 new circulating pumps, and variable speed drive. What are they called, Steve?
Variable frequency drives.
Variable frequency drive pumps. Which can you explain that a little better, Steve?
They only run as fast as they need to put the heat out throughout the building. So whatever is required, that's the minimum it does.
It's energy efficiency.
Question, I know the community center was not included in the energy performance contract for solar. Did they not look at the mechanical stuff in this building? Did we not identify
They
that?
did. That was an ongoing argument I had with them. I was pushing to get that and the windows done. They said it wasn't in their best interest to get
Wasn't cost effective?
There wasn't enough of a savings to them.
Okay,
Because they are already natural gas boilers.
gotcha.
So, that was kind of my question too. Why wasn't that picked up in the energy performance contract?
Right.
And
I
then
tried. I had to come back and review it again.
Yeah.
I was pushing hard for that.
Hearing the answer though kind of raises a little bit of a concern. Is it really worth it for us?
Well, I think it is because those boilers are going to be 27 years old. They would have replaced the boilers. I'm not sure that they would have done the variable frequency drives. Again, we're dropping from 5 boilers down to 2 or 3. The third one would probably just be redundancy in case, just for safety. But there'd be a lot smaller. Possibly could be wall mounted. We wouldn't need, the flue anymore. They'd be through the wall, and I think he'd have better control of them.
Okay. I mean, I guess based just on the age alone, it's
At some point, we have to
kind of
do something.
replacement. But I was thinking of efficiency.
So this quote is for 2 boilers, but we'll most likely have a third. So that will affect the amount.
Yeah, I question whether or not 2, just for the redundancy's sake.
Okay. So is the number sufficient? The quote, the number
That I
of
would
boilers?
want a design professional to make that decision. One of them does the domestic hot water during the summer anyway, so one is always running. So you have 2 that would do the building. Right now there's 5 just in case. I don't know that we need 5, but I'm in between 2 and 3.
Are there any offsetting operation and maintenance costs associated with the existing boilers? If we have 5, we're paying a maintenance contract, or is it an on-call basis for?
Well, we do have a maintenance contract. It's based on the number of boilers, right, Steve?
Right.
That's here in town hall, the town buildings.
Right, they price out each site individually.
So that there could be some operational cost savings, right?
I would think so.
If we could identify those, that would be helpful. And also, if we can tighten that number up, 150 is a nice round number. If we can tighten that number up, please.
150 for two.
Right.
You know, I think it's a good question, Sue, that could easily be 225 if it's three. So.
I don't know, I did the town hall a while ago, and it was less than that. It was around 150 of what I remember. And that was new air handler, new boilers, new controls, new building management system, and all the variable frequency drive pumps. So I don't think that's unreasonable, the 150.
Well, let's see what we can do to tighten that down.
Is there any other questions on projects? Want to go into the equipment real quick?
On the Little League, the irrigation field at Adams, I know we had that in there last year and we pushed it off. There was some discussion last year at this time about potential contributions from Guilford Little League.
We would love to get it. We have not had success in that.
Okay. We'll reach out to them again and see whether or not they want to contribute. Because as I understand, we provided some additional irrigation at Pittner on some
Yes.
of those fields this year.
Correct.
As well as completely resodding both fields.
The A field. B field they did last year. Tony's guys did the A field this year.
A field this year.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the past practice is they use it without paying any fee?
Correct. Yeah, all youth sports don't pay unless it's a clinic. And they would be charging for that. That's off season. Excuse me, or for tournaments like youth football tournament, the Jamboree, the soccer fest. Excuse me. Because they have a large number of non-resident teams playing in those, so there's a fee that they pay for using the fields for that. You want to go to the equipment, Matt?
That'd be great.
Okay. So we can run through most of these pretty quickly, I think. So one of we had in here is replacing our 20-year-old mower, Toro mower. It's a 1999 mower, 6-foot mower with a snow blower attachment and cab. That's $52,000. That's a workhorse in the winter, especially. The snow blower has been just a workhorse for us, Tony, right? It just goes through, we can get 18 inches of snow and that'll get through it. We just got a bus this year, but we need to, we're on a plan to replace these buses. We have a 2008 bus.
Over 100,000, 106,000 miles on it.
Right. And
We have actually two buses now that are over 100,000
Right.
miles.
And we're in a gradual replacement plan over the next 5 years. We just got the new one about a month ago.
I see $16,000 price tag. Is that for a 20-passenger bus?
Because this, we get an
State
8% grant.
money. The state's paying 80%.
Ah,
Right. Yeah, it's more like, 78,000 or something, but, yeah, we pay 20% of it. It's a great deal. It
and
really
then
is.
is
And,
the
by the way-
useful life on the bus 10 years or?
Well, when we used to lease them through the Greater New Hampshire Transit District, which they don't do anymore, now we buy them outright, they used to say it was 7 years or 75,000 miles, whichever came first. And so we're over 100,000 and we're 10, 12 years in some of these buses. And it gets to a point where the public works guys are saying, this is getting tired and we can't keep fixing this thing. And they got to be safe, they got to be on the road, every day for the seniors. And so we got to have buses that are, working well for them. And for $16,000, it's a bargain for us.
Are there
in the amount of use.
times when they're out of service because of maintenance issues?
Yeah. But we have backup ones. We have four buses plus the van.
I
So
understand.
that's
good.
why we need them. We got to have the number that we
I
have.
appreciate that.
Does that grant have a time window where you have to take advantage of it this year? Or?
It isn't locked in.
I'm sorry, I didn't get the
Grant.
question.
The grant, do you have to take
Grant's
advantage
been-
of that this year?
Terry's gone to some meetings, and it's that grant money's been still there.
Is it available year after year, or do
Yes.
you have to take advantage of it this
You
year?
have to apply every year, though. There's no guarantee you get it. It's a competitive process, but we've been fortunate. We've never knocked on it, and a lot of it's the documentation of the use that we have. And Terry does a great job of keeping that documented. Slice seeder, we have one that's about 21 years old. And Tony, can you explain what happens with the undulations of the ground, the fields?
Yeah, the current one we have is solid shaft, so it doesn't follow the land if you have some indents. And, a lot of the spots that we're trying to fill have indents. We don't always top dress our fields, so this one's, I don't know how many tines it has on it, but I believe it's somewhere in the 20 range, and they're all single, so they all run, so if you have a little pocket that you missed, you're not just going to go over and waste the seed. It's going to follow the lay of the land.
So it's replacing one that's 21 years old, and it's a better product because it moves with the shifting of the land there, the different levels of the grass. And then the last one is probably our biggest request here. It's called a New Way rear load refuse truck. It'll have a recycling hopper for about $124,668. So what we're proposing is that I think 6, 7, 8 years ago we started contracting out trash removal. We always did a better job when we did it ourselves. We've contracted out, we're in our third company now. We've never been happy with any of the companies that we're contracting out with. I get calls all the time from the stores on the Whitfield Street, trash overflowing, in the green, parks. In fact, it's not even mind passing it out. These are just some small examples of pictures that we've taken of some of them. On the green, when the barrels are, those metal barrels in the green, the trash, there's a plastic trash barrel inside the metal barrel. They take the plastic one out, the trash falls inside. They don't pick it up. Our guys go back, we end up doing that. And it looks terrible, starts to smell. Jacobs Beach, especially the barrels in the summer, are just, the smell is awful, And I've asked them, well, can you take the barrels out? Can you clean them? No, we can't do that. It's not part of our contract. We're not going to do it. If we do it ourselves, we can clean them. We can replace them better. I know that we can do a better job than a contractor can do. We have more control over it. But if we do it, we have to have a proper vehicle for the guys. The reason we gave it up is that the guys were lifting 55-gallon drums into a dump truck. They were getting strained backs, shoulders, injuries. Our insurance company basically said, you guys got to stop doing this because of the injuries.
Yeah.
Workers' comp.
So is this one of these gadgets that you see on the thing,
They have
the
that
fork
on,
that goes
yeah.
down and pulls
Yeah.
the...
Yeah, and have recycling capability.
And the trash cans that you're contemplating would all be within a reasonable location where that device could be used?
Or they're on wheels. The ones we have now are on wheels, so they can get wheeled to, place,
Like at Jacobs, they're those
Yeah.
big tubs with the
Right.
wheels and the big handle.
So they can be moved around. Now, obviously, we wouldn't be able to use their barrels. We'd have to get some barrels too. Although I think one of the arms we're talking about, they can use the round barrels too, right? We have a lot of those old round barrels that we used to use. We still have them. And there is an arm you can get that can grab those and pick it up and dump them. So that's probably the type we would look at getting, since we can reuse a lot of our barrels. We'd have to buy some probably for recycling, I would think, because they'd be different. But we could use a lot of what we already have and save some money there. It's an initial capital expense. We think the truck could last us 15 to 20 years. Be used basically twice a week. I don't know if I should throw this in there, but I did talk with, we could have a conversation with maybe Madison, because they do their own trash pickup. What they do is they put the barrels on the back of a pickup truck. Then they go to a dumpster and they dump it into a dumpster. Maybe we work out something with them that, hey, we're going to use it Monday, Friday. If you guys want to lease it from us on Tuesday, Thursday, maybe, and it's something we can maybe think about, because I know there's a lot of talk about regionalization of services and so on. That's something we could consider. But I want to just throw this in here. I know this is a conversation more when we do the operating budget. If we're going to do this, we have to get another full-time guy. We can't do this with the staff that we have, because it would tie a guy up 2 days a week.
That was exactly what my question was going to be. But what are you paying now for the outside person?
We're paying $33,500. I talked to them. They said it'll go up to $45,000 next year, because it's been that price for 4 years. It was a two-year contract, renewed a second time. So it's been that price for 4 years now. But I talked to our current supplier, and I put a call to another company, which they didn't give me a note back, but He said we'll go to 45,000 for next year.
So Rick, to take that question a little bit farther, have you been able to do a little bit of a cost-benefit analysis between the contractor and what you think it would take?
I can give you some numbers. I just, this is kind of rough. But so let's just take 1 year. So the contract would be $45,000. Our full-time guys at the beginning, starting level is about $37,000. So right there, we saved $8,000, not counting benefits. I don't have that part in there. And then the dumping fee, based on the amount of tonnage we have, Tony did some estimates. We think it's about $3,000 probably will cost us for a year for the dumping. So say $40,000, we're still lower than what we'd be paying to contract out for this. I guess the more important part of this discussion, again, is, I know it's more toward operating budget, is that we need a full-time guy. We need another guy anyway. We can't keep up with the work that we have. We're getting criticism from sports groups because the fields aren't looking good. And I mean, Tony takes it very personally, as do I. We take it professionally and personally because we think we do the best we can possibly do with what we have. But we're not at the standard we'd like to be. We can't do it with the manpower that we have. We have 40 athletic fields with 6 full-time guys and 3 seasonal guys. Madison has, 10 full-time guys?
I believe so, yeah.
And I think 6 seasonal guys. So we're way behind what other towns have.
I think the key with this scenario is that only 2 of those 5 days that we're paying that full-time employee would go towards trash. Right. So if you took 2/5 of that salary, you're talking $15,000 versus the 45 would be paying. And then it helps us on the back end where I get that guy for the extra 3 days.
It sounds like you're on the right track, trying to compare it out to see if we can do it for less.
We're throwing the trash.
It sounds like it had some promise, but you definitely got to include benefits and the cost of the truck. Correct. And the maintenance for the truck. And
we're putting the trash into. We want to come and ask for another guy anyway, but we thought to soften the blow of that, if we do away with the 45,000 we're contracting out, we take that on, it's less of an impact, on our budget. We're trying to say, look, we'll take more on. But we need, even though we think we have enough to do with just another guy anyway, we'll take the trash on 2 days a week. We still have the guy for the other 3 days to help with everything else we got to get done. So that's the thinking here on that we're trying to look at a way to do this without having to ask for a huge increase in our budget. It's a trade-off, sort of.
Will a truck and one man be able to keep up with the trash generated, particularly during the busy times of the year?
Well, we'll have to evaluate it. I think we got to give it a shot. If we find we're struggling, I think we can also look at reducing some of the barrels. I think we could figure something out.
We used to do it almost a decade ago, and I did it personally a lot, and it took 1 full day, and we had 200 barrels at that time. We're now cut down to bigger barrels, but less. So I think we're down to like 125 now. And then if you're not, and I used to pick them up and throw them in the back of a 550. Jump up on the side of the truck, empty it, and then jump off the truck with the barrel. And I did that 200 times a day, twice a week. Yeah. So that's why it's
he's in good shape.
Yeah, it was in good shape. So that's why it's key for us to really, if we're going to go forward with this, to have the proper equipment for safety reasons. And I think with the tipper, that's going to save us a lot of time getting in and out of the truck. Right. And I think 1 day would be sufficient enough for the amount of barrels. And again, we can even cut it probably even less than the 125.
One employee would be able to operate that truck?
Yeah. Yep.
So they would drive, get out, operate the tipper?
You wouldn't even, depending on which style we go with, most of the styles you stay right in the truck to tip. So as long as it's, parking lot side or even accessible on fields in certain areas, I believe you can get a tipper on each side if you do recycling and one, and they keep the commodities separate. And yeah, really you just pull right up to it. It flips in itself and you move on to the next one for the most part. There may be some fields that we can't get the truck on or we don't want to get the truck on, but that's why those would have wheels. Yeah.
Right. Or if it's wet, we have to drag
the problem you were describing before.
Yeah, and then we have the power for any special events. We pay extra money for extra barrels, tree lighting this week, someone could come in on a Saturday or we can hit it on a Monday. We can do it, we can tailor it to our events and not have to be stuck in a contract for like a Monday and a Thursday or a Monday and a Friday.
In fact, speaking of special events, I have a call into our trash company to bring 6 or 8 barrels for the green for the tree lighting on Friday night. And they left me a voicemail, so I got a call when I go back. But they're gonna want to charge us for that, and I'm going to sell them we're not paying you for it because there's so many days you're not picking stuff up anyway that you owe us money. We're not going to pay you for bringing 8 extra barrels out. If they give us a hard time, I'll just say, ask Tony, just bring them in from Cavalier Field or whatever. Just some barrels on the green, we'll put them there.
To that point, I recall last year, one of the first interactions with the public was a call I got the week after, the week following the tree lighting, when we took office on that Monday, I think, right? And it was about the overflowing garbage cans on the green after the tree lighting. All right. Now we schedule Monday and Fridays is the way we do our pickups. So obviously Friday morning it was done, but by Saturday morning they were overflowing because there were 2,500 people on the green putting refuse. In this case, we'd be able to send guys out on a Saturday and do it ourselves, correct?
Correct.
The same thing we had our Halloween.
Yeah.
The trash barrels are just overflowing. It's just awesome.
You know, sometimes it makes sense to contract things out, but you lose control. You know, we can't ask them to come back another time where they're going to hit us with a big fee. If we have it ourselves, and again, Jacobs Beach, if camp, there's a big event, and it's Thursday, and trash is overflowing, Tony can send a guy down and get it. You know, a contractor, you don't have that control over because maybe they're in Madison or somewhere else, you know, that day. So, look, the guys aren't jumping for joy saying, yeah, we want to do trash pickup again, but they understand that we can do a better job with it. And we did. When we did it, it was much better than when we contracted it out.
I think you've got a little bit of time prior to the operating budget presentations, which will be in early January, to flesh this out, to fully evaluate all the costs and the impacts. And Lou touched on it briefly as well. What's that going to do to our various insurance coverages? And I don't mean to offend a particular group or a particular profession, but among the highest incidences of workers' comp claims in municipalities are those in sanitation.
Sure.
Makes sense.
For exactly the reasons we talked about. Now, let's not kid ourselves. There will be some lifting and some pulling.
Sure.
Some of these barrels are not going to be accessible for this truck, so someone's going to have to move them and get them across the field or whatever. So I think we need to look at this with as much detail and data in terms of a cost-benefit analysis, as Jonathan said. So, and also just to not summarize, but also the impact of having the additional body relative to what you can get done that you're not getting done today in the balance of the work. So we need to know what's not out there. Is it overtime that's occurring? You know, are we going to be able to drop overtime costs? So this
Involved.
It is a. Yeah.
And just to get back to, you know, the trash pickup around the green, that's such a public, noticeable place, and the merchants, and, you know, they're paying taxes, and I think this is something that we can improve it in some way. I mean, it's not free in any way, but many times I've noticed those garbage cans, and it's just very frustrating.
Right.
And two things about, I mean, the whole idea of proximity tossing just drives me crazy. Somebody gets near a trash can and they drop a cup and they're like, okay, somebody else's problem. So it's sort of like bad form. But this person who's going to be driving around in this truck with these mechanical arms is still going to have to address the fact that there's scrud on the ground, right? Sort of one. And two, there's this sort of a counterintuitive movement that I'm going to look into myself, but I'm sort of, a lot of municipalities are sort of getting away from trash cans everywhere. I mean, there's a sort of a carry in, carry out philosophy.
We've talked about that too.
Couldn't do it on the green, can't do it at Jacobs, I suppose, but to a certain extent, trash cans invite people to leave stuff, whereas if you don't have one, then at least most people are going to be like, oh, I've got something, I better put it in my car and take it when I throw it out. So it sounds like you've already reduced them by, maybe almost a third, and that's great. And to the extent that other locations could be found that that philosophy can be implemented, that'd be another way to kind of make it work, which would be appreciated.
Now the barrels that I'm familiar with that have the prongs can lift them, etc. These don't work.
Right.
What do we do on the green?
those you have to pull out. They're small though, they're only 35 gallons, so not all that heavy.
Okay.
That's why I never really like those barrels. I know people think they look better than the big ugly trash,
Right.
But I've always said, what looks worse though? Trash coming over the top of the barrel, or a bigger barrel that's staying in it.
Right.
But these were something that, the Green Committee wanted and we got. They do look nicer, but that's, again, maybe we could hit it on a Wednesday if it's starting to overflow, not wait till Friday, and empty them quicker. But those you have to take out by hand, but they're small. They're 30, like a little household trash barrel. Like
So they're not moving that iron thing?
No,
They're pulling
it's
the
a plastic
out
barrel.
from the middle?
There's a little door that opens up. You slide it out.
Oh.
You dump it. It's lightweight.
That's why a lot of the trash ends up on the ground, because if it's overflowing out of the metal portion and they pull the
knocks off.
plastic,
It drops.
and they don't do litter. So that's probably blown off from the top, not people just throwing that on the ground, and then it's just left when they empty the barrel, and then we're sent out to pick it up afterwards.
There's a chemical.
So we're spending time doing
Picking up
some
after the
trash
contractor.
anyway, and we've frequented at least half dozen times this year, going there after an event on a Monday morning when I'm coming in,
Yeah.
or on a Tuesday or something where, maybe they didn't do it, and we had to go and just take the tops off and clean them. There was a few Saturdays we were in for other activities that we had to just go by there and just take the tops off, so that we get through the weekend.
Just very quickly, I would also look at the Madison
Yeah.
regionalization.
I will take that. I'll be sharing an email with the Board of Selectmen that I received from Tom Banish last night on the heels of a conversation I had with him at a COG meeting yesterday. Department of Public Health is now starting to push regional health organizations. Madison has been approached, has already met with DPH. DPH will be reaching out to us shortly, so we're already starting some of those conversations apropos of your comments on not only internal sharing of resources, but external as well. So, and I'll talk to Tom Banish about that. Good. Anything else?
Unless you want me to go into other things beyond this next year, but I think, you see it all in front of you there.
Unless somebody has specific questions about the out years.
I have one general question, or a request, really. Could we have a list of your equipment? If you have such a thing, an inventory?
We
Yeah, I have
can-
an up-to-date fixed assets
That
list.
would be great to have.
Absolutely.
Thank
And
you.
I also have a man-hour assessment as well, if you'd like me to make copies of that.
Great,
I did
yeah.
it last March. I do it every winter, so.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I did have one question. Last year at this time, we were discussing replacing of the 2004 16-foot Jacobson.
Right.
And we asked if you could get away with keeping it for another year. It looks like you determined you'd be able to do that for another year as well.
We talked with Ralph about it, at the garage there, and they've been doing a good job keeping it up. We thought that the higher priorities, actually the 20-passenger bus was going to be in 2021. We moved that up. I think the slice heater might have been originally 2021 too, I think. But there are a couple things we thought we should move up. The mower's been doing okay. We do have the second one, although both of them are used every day during the mowing season. But we think we can get another year out of it.
Good. Thank you. Wonderful. Thank you very much. Anything else?
Thanks very much.
Good.
Thank you.
While we're here, Mary Jane, Susan and I were actually talking about, it would have been nice to have last year's document in front of us. Is there a possibility we can add, this is not for you guys, to the request, with each department, put in the previous year's capital plan submission, the capital plan projections? So for instance, it would have been nice to see that they moved that from last year in 2021 into 2020. So is there a chance just to put last year's right behind?
Just add the column.
spreadsheet,
Yeah.
just that.
Just
below.
that or just highlight the summary?
The last year's department
Yeah,
summary.
I think that'd be good. Yeah, rather than the backup, just.
Anything to avoid carrying that book around. Right?
You're gonna miss them.
Exactly. Steve, town properties. Now, Steve, I want to, before you get going here, Could you explain, I know you've done this for me in the past, why you aren't, in your budget, presenting boilers for this building, since you're town property?
I think it's got a lot to do with their commissions. They have to get it all approved through their commissions. I don't go to those meetings.
Okay, good. It's just, sort of always been that way, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good.
Public Works has their own, Park and Rec has their own.
Yep.
So I get involved, I help them, same with the police, but it all has to go through their commissions too.
Good. All right, you're on.
I have two broad projects on the books. One is what I'm calling air conditioning phase 2 at the town hall. That's a new air handler, compressor, and everything else for dispatch. That's the only part of the building that uses air handler 2, I'll call it, but runs 24/7. Right. It's getting out at the end of its life expectancy. It'll be all new equipment, all tied into my building management system.
So getting to the end of, maybe we should go back to the end of the system. When was it put in?
I would say probably 80s.
Wow.
Early 80s, yeah.
Okay.
It's old. We've been I won't say limping it along. It's still working, but it's definitely at the end of its life cycle.
Steve, was this contemplated as part of the town hall renovations, energy and renovation?
This air handler isn't big enough for them to get
Well,
involved.
not them, but we did a series of upgrades to town hall with a bond issue several years ago, right?
Yes.
And this wasn't contemplated as part of that project at the time?
No, because Charlie was also adding air conditioning, but his air conditioning ended up just doing the equipment room, only protecting his. It's kind of morphosized this whole system.
Okay.
He did it as a backup to protect his equipment because it's costly.
Gotcha.
So this does just the dispatch room where the dispatcher his desk is.
An anticipated life for the new system?
I would assume
history's anything
15 to 20 years.
So theoretically, it could be a bonded project.
Right.
Right.
Just curious too, are you experiencing a lot of maintenance costs now that the system is so old?
No, we've been pretty fortunate so far. But, the condensers have changed. There's a new gas, so it would have to be repiped. And, I want it on my train Tracer SC system so you can monitor it and they'd have better control of it. Because right now there's very little heat coming through that system because this system originally did the AC for the radio room equipment. So we had to shut the electric heaters off. So they don't have as much heat as they probably should have. But now that Charlie separated and got new air conditioning for the radio room only, I can go back and add the heat back in, which will actually save us money because we got the boilers running anyways. And go back to natural gas source of heat.
Now, I think I got a question for you about maybe funding something like that. If it's some kind of upgrade towards efficiency, don't we have some money earmarked that we put into our own energy fund?
There is an energy fund. We need to take a look at the charge on that specifically to see whether or not we can use it for this if it hadn't been identified.
I thought of that during the discussion with Park and Rec as well and made myself a note to look into that.
Maybe it's
there is a bucket of money there. So.
Yep.
Yeah, that's what we'll be doing. We'll possibly be looking for other buckets of money for some of these, and that's one of them I've noted, like I said, during Park and Rec's discussion on the boiler.
Because anything with heat, that's what we've been using.
Right, so it's possible.
Makes sense.
Any other questions on that? And parking lot?
The other one is the parking lot. It would be reclaimed, repaved. Most of the curbing and stuff is granite. Tommy fixed several catch basins. I put in a new septic pump and had to cut up the driveway. The hopes was to get all this done before this happened, so once we pave it, we're not instantly cutting it back up to make other repairs. So it would include new paving and all the striping and.
When was the last time That was done?
I've been here 11 years, it was done
It
before
was
me.
when that white barn was taken down. There
So that was-
there was a storage barn, and I think it was...
2003?
Yeah, it was reconfigured then with parking for the youth and family services too.
So somewhere around there.
Are we seeing cracks, that kind of thing?
It's starting. I mean, if we really had to hold it off, we probably could.
Okay.
Tommy did address some of the cracking areas, so it is better. If we did need to push it out, you know, a couple more years, I'm sure we could.
We could, okay. Wonderful. Any other questions?
Not about this, but there's nothing listed in the subsequent years. So are we going to be good after this, or is there anything else big in the near
There's
future?
nothing big. Part of it is also the new facilities task force. So instead of me just throwing a bunch of numbers out here, planning on doing this and that, it seems I should just hold off. You know, I'm working directly with them, and hopefully by next year we'll have a whole list of what we should be doing.
Yeah, that'll be a common theme. If you ask that question to the department heads, we've had that discussion. Everyone's been asking about that. So things that they felt were really important to address, they're putting forward. Otherwise, the facilities task force is where they're hoping to take their concerns.
And those various projects that they're identifying, the Energy Task Force, Facilities Task Force. Oh, the Facilities Task Force. Okay, forgot.
Yeah.
That whole thing. So it could be a combination of funding. It could be general, it could be capital fund, it could be bonding, it could be grants if they're available. So that's just going to be. We'll see when they come out with their report.
The department heads just weren't sure which way to go
Sure.
because of that.
What do you know what the timing is? I mean, it sort of defeats the purpose of us having this 5-year plan, getting everything in context, if we're leaving big holes in it because we're waiting for that report. Will they, I don't know what their timeline is.
I think their timeline is probably about an 18-month window.
Okay, so we're not going to have any information from them when we approve this.
Unless we can identify some immediate things that need to be done. So really, they've been charged with short-term, intermediate, and long-term recommendations, and we've given them basically 12 months to 18 months to come up with a fully fleshed out set of recommendations. Doesn't mean they can't come up with things immediately. In fact, one of the things that we're looking at immediately, and Steve helped put some numbers together yesterday. I thought I might see those today, but and that's the 52 Church Street. What we potentially would do with that building. We are slowly coming to the realization that that may be just a tear down. The cost, the cost for the mechanicals, the cost for retrofitting that facility to make it habitable for offices is pretty substantial.
It's not laid out for ADA compliance at all. There's a crawl space, you know, pipes could freeze. It's split level inside, which again for ADA, it just, by the time you go through and make it work, I don't think it's worth it. Building has a lot of jogs and whatnot in it. I just don't think it's conducive to our needs.
We were hoping that potentially might be a swing space for Town Hall, because we have to replace the carpeting at Town Hall, and we've identified that there is a possibility of asbestos in the underneath the current carpeting. So that means shutting down in stages portions of Town Hall. We thought this would be a good swing space, but it's not looking like it's going to work out so, for a variety of reasons.
I have a question. This is kind of a general question, but when you do stuff like this with the paving, with the general fund financing, do we pay like a penalty if we did it in phases? If we said, hey, we're just going to do a portion of parking lot, and not have to shut it down?
I'm sure there would be.
There would be. So it's better to
because you got to
do it all
and
one.
Start all over.
Equipment's there. Okay, right. I'm just curious about that.
I mean, it would be done in phases, but all at once. I mean, we do like immediately behind the town hall one day, and then we probably keep moving towards Town Hall South. You don't want to reclaim the whole thing at once.
A lot of the cost is getting that equipment there. Once that equipment's there, you're better off getting it all done.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
All right.
Anything else? Thanks, Steve.
You're welcome.
All right, golf course. No, natural resources. I'm sorry, Kevin. I should have noticed that you were standing up.
I'm all approved, that's good.
There you go. There you go.
So we got 3 items. One item got thrown in last minute.
Yeah,
Is it in their
yep.
package there?
You should see.
So the first item, which is the continuation, I'm not sure which way you have it, so is an item which we pushed off and hopefully get from this coming year's budget, would be the compact tractor for the land stewards' needs for maintaining the open space there. This tractor would come with equipment to assist with mower, a soil auger, a front bucket, a backhoe to help with grading of hills, create water bars on steep slopes. East River Preserve has a two large fields on it, and currently it's a very narrow walking path. Concerns with ticks and stuff like that. We kind of need something that can get out there, mow to keep the grass away from the walkers where there are concerns regarding ticks there. We have a field of North Guilford where it gets cut once a year, where the brush hog attachment is going to be very useful with. And we just got a report again this year, recently, of ATV trespass up on our Braymore Preserve where there's rutting of the trails there. So getting a small compact tractor up there help regrade these ruts back out of the pathways there. It's narrow enough where it should make it through the sort of the wood roads that are made up in these properties to get the crews in there, especially down trees and stuff, with carrying the chainsaw in, roping, and those items to help remove the down trees. The bucket and stuff will help lift the trees up so they can cut them properly also without damaging the saw blades there. So that's that item. It's also included in the price is also a trailer to transport the tractor and its equipment there. Last year we got the truck to tow this item there, so we're all set with that end of things there. So that's the compact.
How often is that tractor going to be used, do you think?
We're hoping quite frequently. Right now there's some stuff we have a hole that we can't do, or else we're doing labor to do it, of like I said, digging holes and stuff like that. All the land is really hard and stuff like that, so it slows things down and becomes labor intensive there. A lot of time lost with them kind of just hiking into the woods to do things where there's actually a pathway for them to take a piece of equipment and kind of ride in to get the locations quicker and stuff there.
So there are no other types of tractors available, either Park and Rec or Public Works, that could be used for this purpose?
Not of this size here. Public Works are all a lot larger there.
Is there an opportunity that Public Works or Park and Rec could benefit from us having this? Because I'm assuming this isn't going to be used, 7/24, even the golf course, as I look at that here.
Yeah, it would have a ability for, like I said, Public Works doesn't have like a small bucket, so if they're doing some fine landscaping and stuff like that, and it's easier for them to bring in than bringing in their, quote, mini excavator.
Okay.
It's not quite that many for small areas to get in and out of there, so. Fine grading on the edge of the roads where their machines can't get, even facilities, things around town property and stuff.
As this relates to management of open space, are there any opportunities for state, federal grants to support open space preservation that might go towards
I haven't seen
offsetting
anything
the
for
costs?
equipment.
Right.
Everything I see is more for land purchases.
Okay.
But I haven't seen anything for equipment wise.
Good. Any other questions on that one? Next.
The next item we have in here is the Timberland Management Plan. The last plan was put in place in 1997. Technology and forest management has changed since then, and we also have done some forest management activities since that date. So we kind of need to reevaluate, get a forester in there, actually a forester and planners in there to kind of reevaluate the forest, what can be done in terms of forestry practices. There's now new looks at forestry practices to promote different type of wildlife, which needs to be reviewed with the Conservation Commission to determine what they would like for wildlife in there as part of the cutting. So you're doing massive open cuts, there's different ways of doing things. Sometimes you may want a certain large cut in a certain area to get a younger growth going back in there instead of having a single life aged forest in there. So it's that time to update that practice there. The East River Management Plan was also about that same price there. So the East River Preserve is the only one that really has a comprehensive management plan. The East River, this Timberlands here was more of a forest plan, and we're looking to have that more of a more comprehensive plan looking at recreational activities and the ecology and stuff of that property.
When we say timberland, that's one specific place
Yeah,
in town,
Timberland.
or is that a generic
No,
term?
Timberland is one place there. It's the
Okay.
500, 600 acre parcel that we have, which goes from Guilford Lakes all the way up to Route 80. Goes from Malpas Road all over to Twin Bridge Road there. So it's a very large piece of property we have there.
How often is the existing management plan consulted? Like, who uses it? You? Anybody
Myself
else?
and the commission there, correct. And we started looking into it and realized that there was the age of it and there's previous harvest done. There's a lot of question that was raised during the last harvest, which was mid-2000, 2005, 2007, somewhere in there. And the commission felt that it's best to have it updated before we go after another harvest. Because of the neighborhood concerns.
You bid out for
You bid out the
people to
work.
come and timber.
And timber, and we actually get some revenue.
And they pay
back,
for that.
And they pay for that, correct.
Okay, but they're responsible for taking out the tree, taking out whatever brush they
Correct.
create.
Correct, yep.
And it's got to be in accordance with this.
The plan we
The
created.
previous plan or the new plan
plan,
that says,
yeah.
okay, here's the forest healthy way of doing
Right, and
this.
this is a section that we recommend to get done. I mean, last time was a southern section. The plan may recommend a northern section or an eastern section that needs to get cut and managed.
And typically, how much money are you talking about that gets paid by one of these contractors? Are we talking hundreds of dollars, thousands of dollars?
Revenue coming back in?
Yeah.
I would have to look that up because it was before me when it came in, and that money, I believe, went back into the land acquisition fund there.
Okay.
So then it
I'd be
gets put
curious.
back into
The last time we did it, what we got paid.
Yeah, I can take a look.
That'd be great.
To find that
Thank
contract
you.
there.
Is there an estimate as to how long it would take to get the plan in place? Would there be public hearings?
There'll be a public hearing process there. I would assume probably like a 6-month process there.
Okay.
They would have to get out there, do their evaluation, commission then reviews it, a draft plan at least, and then do a formal final plan there.
Great.
So what's the reason that we can't use our own in-house expertise to come up with a plan of some sort and make these decisions? Is it lack of time, or is there a specific knowledge that this consultant would have that you don't have?
It is lack of time. I'm one person which handles many different items there.
Mm-hmm.
And they do it all the time, so they can do it quicker and easier than trying to squeeze it in.
Mm-hmm.
And they say it's no different than, like you said, your transportation plan and stuff like that. It's an item that needs to be done on a regular basis.
Often when we hire a consultant to prepare a plan, they produce an impressive 25-page boilerplate document that's got, a kernel of information that's specific to what we need. Is there any way to get the information you need outside of a formal plan using a consultant, or is that something that we could consider?
And there's some stuff you can probably cut and paste from the East River Reserve plan. I mean, that one's about now.
I guess what I'm saying
10 years
is,
old, so there's things.
Do we need to have a document?
Yeah, you need a
in order to make
document,
operational
especially with,
decisions?
like you said, you're dealing with a neighborhood and hikers and users of the property, which sometimes it's best to have an outside person do it because they might feel there's a bias from an inside person creating the document there, saying it needs to be done. It's better having an outside person come in
And you
and do
said the
this.
last one was 1997?
97 for this property.
Is 20 years about the life of a plan?
Yeah. Especially when you already implemented a good portion of it.
So the plan that came out in 1997, I'm assuming, had a series of suggestions.
Correct. Yep.
Is there a way to take a look at and see what did we do from that plan, or did it sit on a shelf, or did we implement?
No, we did implement it. There's a recommendation for something that needed to be done in 2012. We didn't get to. The commission was starting to look at now implementing that, and the question came up with the age of the plant and also the concern from the last harvest that they wanted somebody to go back out and review how well the last harvest was done, and then relook at the plan itself before we went back to a public hearing, because we know we may have a lot of comments regarding it.
All right, next.
Next one is, as you know, Lake Quanapug has been turned over to the Natural Resources Department for oversight. This was an item that was in Park and Rec's capital budget last year, which you guys had, and now be moved over into Natural Resources, Lake Quanapug Aquatic Weed Control. We've done treatments on the lake. Original treatments on the lake were done as part of a grant about 4 years ago. Which did primarily the north end and central portion of the lake. A third year of stuff was done with some touch-up of maintenance on the north end of the lake and the center area of the lake, and then started the southern section of the lake, opening up that southern channel. There was treatment supposed to be done last year. Unfortunately, the treatment from the year before rose back to the surface and created sort of a debris jam for that southern portion of the lake, so it couldn't be properly treated. So we're now going to be moving into this year be the fourth year of treatment since we completed that southern section last year. It goes to, we're evaluating, depending on the conditions there, evaluate either herbicide treatment of the lake or using mechanical methods to manage the weeds on the lake there. And those are included in this price here.
As Kevin mentioned, this used to be in Park and Rec's budget, and to me it didn't seem to be the appropriate place, because this is environmental planning stuff, so we've moved the responsibility for managing that project to Kevin, and so the budget is going to slide with it. Just to that point, Kevin's already been actively engaged in the process. We've had the state down looking at the southern end of the lake. We've had a series of discussions, and I think we've arrived at a plan which will utilize most of the funds, the $20,000 that we had. Actually, it's not $20,000. So we need to take a look at this.
15 or something. But there's also costs incurred already by the ag station out there.
Agreed.
And previous contractor.
But I think last year this budget item was $17,500 because we've had a commitment from Choate to contribute $2,500 a year to that program. So are we?
We've not received that commitment, but
right. Well, I think we need to reach out to Choate to ensure that it's still there.
Rick and I had that conversation when we were putting this all together, so he was going to be reaching out to them again.
And the reason Choate provides that assistance is that their crew team uses the lake as well. The southern end of the lake is becoming overgrown, and there's concern that the continued growth of the weeds into the lake area will make it difficult to continue to utilize the lake for rowing activities, both the town of Guilford and for Choate. And then, not the least of which is further degradation of that lake over time, which may be a natural evolutionary thing, and that's one of the challenges I think we have. Are we fighting against the tide here consistently? But there are significant reasons for us to keep that lake as for recreational purposes, as well as the property values of the homeowners around that lake.
We had quite a detailed presentation from, I forget the official name of the group, but something like the Friends of Lake Quanapug. So this money that, if we allocate this, they were asking for town assistance and involvement. So is this going to make them happy? I mean, are they going to be pleased with this? Is it addressing what they
It is addressing some other issues. Yeah. Some of the stuff is we're dealing with the areas utilized by the major recreation. I have no plans at this point in time to do in front of individual houses and stuff like that. Okay. And that goes part of the ecology of the lake too. You want some vegetation on the edges for the fish population and invertebrates and stuff that live in the lake there too.
But this somewhat complements the problems they were addressing as well.
Yeah, let's get
Especially
some
on the south end.
south end there,
Yeah.
because that's the biggest, was about bottleneck. They couldn't go down there, kayaking, fish or whatever, because it's just too tight with the lily pads now. So now we cleared a path down the center where they can go down with their boats, and the lily pads are still on the side of the lakes here, but there's still a channel for them to go down to the south end of the lake there.
But neither the association nor any individual homeowner could just start dumping.
Chemicals and stuff in the lake,
Chemicals in.
correct. They require DEP permit for that
Right.
there, and for any weed control, they're actually required for Inland Wetlands Commission.
So the proper process is what's happened so far. They come to you, they then come before us maybe, and they present. Anybody can't take it into their own hands to start managing weeds in the lake.
No,
It's
you
gotta
have
go
to.
through you.
It's got to go through either Inland Wetlands, or if they're doing pesticides, it has to go through the state.
Thanks. Yeah, thanks for all
And
this
anything
work.
that's placed in the lake there has to go
Yeah.
through. If somebody wants to put a float out there, it has to come in front of Inland Wetlands for approval.
So I have a question, with the pretext that, of course, this is just a wonderful asset to the town, and, just like the beach or the golf course, we want the lake to be useful and have the recreation. But is the treatment really effective? You mentioned that maybe we need to switch to some kind of mechanical treatment. I assume you'd start like dredging the weeds away or something. But
The mechanical process we're looking at was at the end of the year, and unfortunately, we found out about too late about this floating debris on the south end of the lake there. By the time we were able to get up and check with the various state departments and stuff like that, and get ready to move on it, and we actually got a wetlands permit to do it, a lot of the floating material re-sunk. So the mechanical harvester can't really go back in there and grab it, because it's going to grab the floating stuff there. So we're in consultation with Greg Bugsby, who is actually the lake professional at the Connecticut Experimental Station in New Haven, and we've been consulting with him on the how to treat the lake there.
Okay, this would probably be right up your alley, but is there just a better way to achieve the objective? Seems like we do the treatment year
Well, you're
after year.
hoping as you do treatments, you get rid of, especially the invasives, which grow high and create the issues, and you're trying to allow the promote weeds or the vegetation which are shorter to cover the bottom. So if you pull out something, like in your yard, you pull out a weed or clear an area, you're going to get the invasives in there. So it's a treatment where you're going to want to control treatment, and it targets the type of plants you have growing in there. And that's what we're doing with herbicide treatment. There's controlled things so we can maintain the correct vegetation in the lake there. And as you get control, hopefully the cost goes down and you go into a maintenance mode versus a heavier treatment mode.
And there's some other considerations. There are certain species of plant life that are considered endangered. And in this end of the lake, there was an identified
There's
species
two
that
species identified.
prevented us from using a certain type of herbicide, chemical treatment, which is what necessitated us not doing the treatment in that end of the lake that had been planned this year. So, which is why we started talking about harvesting other opportunities.
So if the state doesn't allow what we put in for herbicide treatment for next year, we still have within the budget, and the price is pretty closely matched, the mechanical method there. So we're planning for both methods of treatment there.
And the permit you got from the DEP for harvesting last year, does that carry over to next year, or do you have to start the
harvesting is
process all
actually
over
through inland wetlands.
Okay.
DEP doesn't issue permits for harvesting since it's not considered dredging.
Okay.
You're just basically clipping it's like a big sickle bar, which clips the vegetation, and then it has a conveyor belt which kind of grabs the vegetation, puts it on a barge type thing, and dumps it on shore.
Okay.
So there's no disturbance of the bottom, so it doesn't require a dredge permit from DEP.
But is that something you're going to have to go back to inland wetlands next year?
No, we have a 5-year permit for that, and it's going to be allowed for 5-year maintenance permits. So we use it 1 year, we can continue it for the 5 years there.
And are these mostly native species? It's not like somebody brought a boat in.
What we're treating right now is the majority of the lake there is invasive species where it did get caught on a boat and it's been spreading through the lake there, or somebody's dumped their fish tank and got some invasives from some weird exotic place growing in some sections.
Is there any way to keep that from happening?
There's notices now, since it's been realized the issue there, where there's notices at the boat ramp there from the state saying, please clean your boat before you leave this location, before you go to the next location there. That's the biggest thing of these transportation of these weeds is they caught on the boat motors and they just quickly get out of the pond, they go down, and then the next day they go into another lake and it falls off, and the seeds from that then start spreading into the next lake they're in there. So there's becoming a bigger awareness within this matter. Other states, Connecticut's not one of them, I believe it's Maine and potentially Vermont, they have a registration fee on boats which covers, which then funds a program which gets passed back to maintaining the lakes here in their states, but Connecticut doesn't have that opportunity or any funding like that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, Kevin.
And then the last item, which is the last minute thing, which
Probably will get moved to a different budget.
Which hopefully gets put into a different department.
We were having that discussion while I was away, so I told Kevin to put it in here so that he could at least discuss it since it's coming from the entire land use.
Right.
And then we can move it afterwards, but Kevin's the right person to speak to the issue.
So department, probably most likely the land use office for this one here. It's the microfilming of scanned documents. As we found out, we scanned in a lot of the building permits and health department records into our computer system in Town Hall South. We found out as part of the process there, Pam Millman, our in-house counsel, indicated that we should, before we get rid of records, we need to really look at our retention records within the state. Looking in that, we found that the building permit information is life of the building. So the paper files there need to be maintained the life of that building. So it's either we find a building to store 40 cabinets, or right now it's 12 cabinets, which can be growing over the years into a warehouse type facility, or what is an allowed thing to do is microfilming them. So we're looking at microfilming these documents for long-term retention. They end up on a reel like that. And if something happens to the computer systems, we still have the records. The state is still not trustworthy of computer technology and storage, I guess, or feels that technology changes over time and the readers may change over time, so they still want a permanent document, which is not computer-based to be viewed, these documents right now. So
there's a microfilm reader in Town Hall South, isn't there?
Yes, we have a fiche reader in Town Hall
Fiche
South.
reader.
But they'll put it on film, and I'm not sure if the library has one, or else
The
we may
library
have to
has
go.
a public digital microfilm reader.
What does that mean, digital?
Well,
is
it's-
it like the old tapes you used to stick in when we were
Yes,
in
but it's
high school?
it was upgraded 10 years ago, and when the librarian gets here, you can ask him more detailed questions about it. But it's
There is technology we can read.
it was
for.
state of the art 10 years ago.
And it's interesting. Talking with Janice, who just came over from Brantford, that as part of their process and as part of their fees, they actually charge for the microfilming as part of their permit application.
Yeah, was that discussed with the committee?
Still an open item.
So they do charge fees for the microfilming and scanning of documents as part of the permit application.
So land use documents, I'm sorry, this is a dumb question. These are your own documents, or these are from citizens and users who?
Yeah, somebody comes in for a permit. They give us an application to build a house, and a permit's issued. So the permit, the application, the
Got
CO.
it. Okay, that's why you said it would go into a different budget. It's not, okay.
Yep, but it's not mine. Mine would
connection.
be, my department would be inland wetlands.
Gotcha, okay.
Right, he's representing
But
all
I'm
of Town Hall
recommending,
South.
Okay.
yeah, Town Hall South, I'm
Thank you,
representing
okay.
with this, because all these documents are starting to get intertwined and merged into each
Okay.
other here. But,
And what's the time period that we're talking about doing this to?
we like to do it in the next budget period here, because we have cabinets now where you basically can't even get your hand to pull a file in and out of.
So, okay, I'm wondering, what's the time period covered by the permits that we would be microfiching?
The ones that we have, that we just recently which we PDF'd, now we found out we need to do, is from about 10 years back of records, I believe.
So it's not to the present. They're 10 years old?
It's up to the present.
Up to the present, okay. And we already have them?
We're actually up to, I would say when we started the scanning, so up to last year.
Okay. And we do already have them all on PDF?
They're all on PDFs, yeah. So it's so half the price is done because they're scanned in, so now they just take the PDF and then print it on a film card.
Okay, so, and because it's $35,000, what if we just don't do that?
We just have to find a spot for our paper files.
What
then there's a cost for storage, heat, and everything else that goes with that.
So we know that the PDF is really adequate as long as you've got a backup copy and it's stored correctly. So understanding that that's not what the state wants, what if we just toss the paper files, we have the PDF?
We can't. We're caught up by the state retention policy there.
If there's a Freedom of Information request and for some reason the PDF is missing, there's a violation from the state if we're not following their. As long as we follow the retention policy and we do everything we can, we're okay. Once we deviate from that, then it's potential problems.
How do we come up with a $35,000 number? It just seems outrageous. It was. Did I overlook it?
Okay. 10 cents a page to reproduce them.
Okay.
Up to 11 by 17 copy.
Okay.
And then it's $2.25 each for anything above 11 by 17.
Okay.
Unfortunately, I can't calculate out how many pages are above 11 by 17.
Sure.
There was over 230,000 pages scanned in.
Mm-hmm.
Of those, I cannot tell you what percentage is over 11 by 17. So it's potentially a cushion built into it, but you don't know until we run it.
Okay.
How many file cabinets did you say exist now?
I think we have at least 12 4-drawer vertical cabinets.
So you have 12 cabinets for a historical part of our town. So in the next 20 years, what are we going to have? 2 cabinets?
We're actually getting more information now with newer permits than you were with older
4 cabinets.
permits. So I
mean, 16 cabinets. We have a basement in town hall that, to my knowledge, is a basement.
That's why the facilities task force is in work, because my understanding is there's very little space left in that basement for storage.
Yeah. Last time I was down there, the fire department had just left and it was pretty empty.
Yeah, that's been a lot of documents have been moved in there.
But not land use documents. They're just
there's some rolled documents of.
It just seemed to me for 16 file cabinets, it wasn't a remarkable amount of space, even if you had to go to Iron Mountain and outsource it or something for $35,000.
Do you think this is something that could be pushed out because it might be possibly addressed through the facilities, as Charles points out, where maybe there would be space for file cabinets as opposed to microfilming it? Because the state doesn't care, right? As long as we have a
as long as we have it, correct. But the question is, everybody might understand all the departments right now are bursting at the seams, and there's no space, which means the town would have to acquire a building or some sort of warehouse to start moving documents into, or you said some other facility.
Or utilize a facility that's underutilized at this point.
We don't know that yet.
I mean, Steve would better answer space-wise.
The facilities, through our conversation earlier, we're awaiting a report.
So sorry, you picked this up, and thank you for presenting it. It's a perpetual problem that everybody has trying to figure out what to do with old documents. It's a nightmare.
Right, and like I said, right now,
a follow-up question.
Right now, I mean, if we're not doing this, we'll probably have to add into our regular budgets coming up here at least 2 or 3 more cabinets, because like I said, there's stuff sitting in boxes which need to go into places here, and I'm not sure we're going to be putting them in our building.
To implement this going forward?
Of the scanning and stuff like that?
Yes.
But then you're going to have a gap, so I'm not sure how you manage that.
Waiting for the
So it's like I
Can
said,
I ask a question? I'm sorry.
Sure.
Is this does this state retention for the microfilm, does it extend beyond the land use into
Oh, yeah, all
areas
the
of
different
town
departments
hall?
and everything else has a.
Town clerk's office, et cetera.
Yep, it's all up on the town, the
Finance,
state's,
yeah.
it's run through the state library
Library.
department, and they're in charge of this, and they haven't really reviewed anything in the past 5 or 6 years because of lack of staffing on their end.
And then,
The
I'm not sure I
difference-
understood the comments, Sandy's comments. Do we have the equipment to do this in-house, to microfiche?
No.
To read them.
Just to read it. No, no, not to produce it, just to read it. If we were to go this route and somebody wanted to read it, it could be read at the library, but not created, no.
All right, I'm sort of curious if we need to step back and say that maybe we need some kind of in-house microfiche capability, and is that worth it as opposed to storage, which might be just cheaper to get the cabinets and store them in?
There's a good chance that microfiche won't even exist in 5 years. I mean, that is such old technology.
The problem is that's all the Connecticut Library will allow at this point.
At this point, but I
mean,
it's just an archaic, unfunded mandate, and to spend $35,000 chasing it, I think you need a little more information.
If nothing else, the issue needs to come onto the table and
Right.
be addressed at some
The
point.
storage issue, to lose point, you all personally, publicly, and everything have storage of information issues, but
Right, just to answer Jonathan's questions, all the departments follow the state retention policy. The documents that Kevin is discussing need to be kept forever. In finance, a lot of them are recycled every 7 years, so we have a finite sort of amount of space that we need because it's,
maybe even some of our, state legislators ought to be questioned about this type of thing. I mean, I don't know if it's a legalese thing or something, but every town must be going through this.
Oh, absolutely.
And maybe
Every town
there's got to
has
be
the
a
same
sunset
discussion.
on some of this.
What is going on in the town, speaking of the town clerk's office, what is happening at the town clerk's office? I mean, we have literally a vault with leather red, talk about archaic technology, leather red books on wheels that have to pull out of these racks. It's like,
They're running out of space too.
Did they have any electronic?
Yes, they do.
Yeah, there's.
It's going on.
They do the
Now
same thing.
available, you can go.
The state actually provides funding to the town clerks for record retention. There
In
is.
what format is that?
Same thing.
They scan them in, but then they have to keep their books.
They also microfiche.
They also do some microfiche too.
Yeah, they also.
The land use guys.
Not to go totally off track here, but a lot of it depends on the age of the town too, and the document. I mean, some of those land records are hundreds of years old, and I'm sure that there are members of the town who would be outraged if we destroyed a document that was written in 1690 because we were running out of space, and so
But maybe not so much 1990.
No, that's
We
true.
can figure out a way going forward, is where I was going before. If there's some way we could figure out going forward, not to keep adding to this problem. Rather than spend $35,000 on an old problem, can we spend a smaller number on an annual basis going forward to just start either electronically or on cellulose or celluloid?
If on all these new applications, we required them digitally.
Well, yeah,
What would
but
you
you
say
still
to the
need
state
the
at that
final,
point?
the permit and CO and commercial building plans have to be life of the building.
We get them digitally,
Right,
but that's
but
not the
if
same
they
as what the
start-
But
state's
they have to
requiring.
be either in paper form or in a microfilm form is what the requirements of the regulations calls for.
In the interest of complete transparency, I'm a member of the State Library Board, so I would be happy to take this question back. And Charles, what you said about could we look at this? I mean, I understand what everybody's saying, and I'll ask. I'm not saying I have any power to change it, but I'll be glad to ask.
Start the conversation.
And maybe complain a little.
Well, one of the other things to keep in mind also is that a lot of what we're talking about, once they're filed with the town, are public documents. So you have to make sure that the public can access them. And so if I, for example, go to town hall and I would ask Kevin or somebody there, can I see a copy of the building permit for this building that was built in 1947, and the building still exists, hopefully they'll have it and be able to, and I can find it without having to go online. With the land records that are available online, most towns have portals that you can access their land records, but many of them charge a fee for you to actually view the land records. So you can only, or the towns haven't put all of their land records on a digital format yet. And so if you restrict the public's access to those documents by getting rid of them or putting them in a format that they can't get to readily, you may be creating a problem. So I just throw that out there.
And we're also not talking, it's just about 8 by 11s. I mean, when you look at a P&Z application file, it can be that thick.
Yeah, surveys and schematic
some
design.
more complicated projects. It can be very, very.
All right. All right. So, Sandy, thank you for offering to take a look at the work with the State Library on this. More to follow on this particular item. Right. All right. Thank you.
Thanks so much.
That's all I have.
Thank you.
That was plenty.
Before we go on to the next, I'll just say that the 2019 capital approved 5-year plan has been uploaded to Board Pack while we've been talking. So if you refresh your agenda and refresh your documents, you'll see under item 1, for all departments, the all department file is the current information you're looking at, and then capital 2019 will populate underneath it. Just get out of the agenda, back in, and then load the documents. So if you have a question on what is currently in place today, what's that?
There it is.
Available.
Yep. Great, wow.
Well done, thank you.
So,
Wow.
so if you see me texting
Oh,
over
excellent.
here, it's like not my children. I'm texting down.
Well, in a sense, you know.
You know.
Excellent. Ted.
So if you want to see what is currently in place and see changes, you can refer to that document for now. We'll maybe do something a little better for you next year, but for now, at least it's there.
Gotcha.
Good.
Thanks.
Good morning.
Good morning,
Hello.
Ted.
All I have is one item for you.
Yep.
We're just looking to pave the parking lot at the Guilford Lakes Golf Course. It's 14,000 square feet. We just replaced the carpet inside, so it'll help keep the carpet a little longer. It'll help with the dress-up of the appearance of the clubhouse. It'll help cars park properly at the golf course. We have issues with people just pulling right in and not parking in the proper spots. And one of the main problems is I get a lot of rocks on the putting green, which knocks the blades of the greens mowers out of adjustment. So those are some of the things that would help. And there's daily back and clean of the clubhouse every day because of the rocks that come in to the clubhouse. So that's kind of what we're looking to do at the golf course.
Okay.
And
Now, this was.
I would just like to add that the commission moved off some of their other requests because they felt this was a priority, correct?
Correct.
And I think this is when you had asked for it last year.
Yeah, we looked
Right.
and we pushed it back.
And that 22,000 cost came from.
Me and Tommy basically we measured it up and the 14,000 square feet. It's also going to do the
I was going to ask, the walkway up
the walkway up to the
stairs?
first tee. You know what I mean?
Oh,
It's
good.
going to go right to the building, so it'll be right to the
Yeah,
stairs.
that's what I was asking. So
Yeah.
the path from the parking lot to the stairs to the building would
To
be
the
paved?
yep.
And then
Everything
the-
that's stoned properly is all going to be.
And then the
paved.
walkway up to the first tee would
Up
be
to the
paved?
first tee, yes.
Black, there's asphalt, black asphalt is what you're
Correct.
proposing.
So I told Tommy we'd work, with the engineering and public works whenever we're going to be doing a road project, and basically fit it in.
Excellent. While that is underway, would golfers be able to get into the house? Is there a way for them to come around the back of the building? I'm assuming it's going to be shut down for a day or two.
Yeah, we're going to be shut down for a couple days. So we'll
Talk to
probably
them.
just have to
Talk to the folks at the school.
possibly
use the parking
maybe
lot.
do it on a Friday. You know what I mean? So then we can park
At the school?
at the school and
Yep.
still get the people in.
Excellent.
Good.
Anything further? Thanks, Ted.
Thank you.
That seems like a lot of value for $22,000.
Engineering. Good morning, Janice.
Morning.
All right, show's yours.
I kind of new to the process here, so
That's fine.
I'm going to go a little out of order, I think, than the way it was submitted to kind of keep it with what's current year first. So starting with sidewalks in general, the first one was the request for $50,000 per year for 5 years to continue with maintenance of our existing sidewalks, and this also includes any new connections that may be determined. But as you may realize, there's a new task force that I would assume be kind of looking at it holistically and making recommendations on particularly the new connections. But some of the things that we do need to do going on an annual basis is maintenance. We have trip and fall hazards with deteriorating sidewalks, and we also have a big issue of ADA compliance with regard to the handicap ramps and upgrading those as we can. And looking at kind of just this year and putting together a repair program. Since I've been here in July, I was able to kind of identify about almost $25,000 worth of sidewalk work that needs to be done, and it's just a very hit or miss in the center of town location. So there's a lot of repairs that need to be done. So I think this year it was funded for $25,000 because there was a balance in the fund, and it had been previously funded at a rate of $75,000 per year. So I think a good compromise is $50,000. And I think given the realistic ability to get work done with our on-call contractor, anything more than that really is probably not attainable unless you're doing a specific extension project or like they did on River Street or something.
Good.
Yeah, I'll just note for anyone that might not be aware that this money goes into the sidewalk fund. So it's a transfer, the amount. So that money is there for engineering to use on a year-over-year basis, so there might be more needs this year than next year, but that money just rolls as to be able to be used as needed and more effectively in larger groups.
Janice, as you and I have talked as well as with Brian McGlone, we're looking at providing an arrangement with St. George Church for parking for the merchants' employees. St. George has agreed to allocate 75 spaces for us. The challenge is that we need some kind of pathway across their property between their driveway on the left of the church as you look at it, and the stores to behind, what is it, the hair of the dog, the grooming, Maturo's, not Joe Maturo's, but Maturo's property there. So, and that's one of the potential uses for a new sidewalk, right? Okay. Good.
And then in the sidewalk realm, the next one was specific sidewalk extension for Boston Street. This was included in previous capital budgets, and I was picking up on that from the prior year's capital plans. And this is to extend sidewalks along Boston Street from where they terminate now, just I think they terminate west of Lover's Lane, and to extend them all the way out to Route 1. And this is a multi-year funding to achieve the balance needed to complete that project. The town had applied for a grant, but was not funded under that grant program to cover this project. We heard about that late summer, so I figured we would keep it in and then also see what the priorities come out of the Safe Streets Task Force. And then the other one is farther out for 2022 and 2023, is to start funding sidewalk expansion along Route 1. And then the next project I wanted to talk about was the Sawmill Road.
When you say just sidewalk expansion along Route 1, where just generally are you contemplating? West?
Yeah, I believe it was west. I'm still trying to dig through some of the documents in the engineering department to see if there's specifics. But with this task force, obviously, that'll be helpful in terms of
So you're looking for the
right.
funding, and then the details will come in as
Well,
the
as you know, as you
report
can
comes
see,
in.
this is out for 2022, so it'll
Yeah.
give us an idea to better hone in on exact locations and before it's actually part of it. But our capital planning point of view, it should be, you know, a 5-year plan to include.
From 77 east to probably Goose Lane, whenever new merchants come in, there's an understanding that they will develop the sidewalk in front of their properties. But there are gaps. That's going east, there are gaps.
Right, and there has been some work done, I believe, by the town to fill in some of those gaps. It was recently done, I think it's by Lighthouse Square.
Village
Walk.
Village Walk. There was a thing with a little culvert.
The culvert,
yes,
they did that fill in. So I think either that was using the sidewalk fund itself or a specific project, I'm not exactly sure.
I have nothing against going west, but it would be nice if that stretch, a lot of people do walk on those sidewalks, and I would say it's maybe 75 to 80%. It would just be wonderful if it was 100%, but I don't know if that's partly merchants' issues or partly town, but I'm just mentioning it.
Right, so that's where I think the task force will be really helpful to identify where the priorities really are, particularly in the commercial zones or along Route 1. And if you're not aware, DOT, although it's a state highway, they abdicate responsibility for any sidewalks to the town, which
Thanks.
which then reverts to our ordinance, which in terms of at least shoveling, clearing of snow, and kind of that type of maintenance by our ordinance is reverts to the adjacent property owner. But the actual construction and physical repair and replacement program is the responsibility of the town.
Can you clarify again, the Boston Street sidewalks, those will go from, did you say Lover's Lane? Would it go to Soundview?
Or Alderbrook Cemetery, I think, right?
Yeah, there's definitely a gap west of Lover's Lane, and then they stopped there, and then the idea was to fill in all the way to Route 1. I don't know if there's a section that may exist over by Alderbrook or not.
I think it extends to Alderbrook, and then it's basically Alderbrook to Soundview. That's left to do, right, Tommy? The sidewalks, I believe the sidewalks extend pretty much all the way to
I think they're on the one side of the road.
One side, yeah.
Right, so I think there's a small section on the south side of the road, that what I'm thinking of is by Lover's Lane, where there's a gap there to try and fill that in, because there's, as you know, a lot of foot traffic to the fairgrounds. But then there's a section that is on the north side of the road, I believe, to Alderbrook's Cemetery, and then there's no sidewalks
from there to Soundview.
To Soundview. So they kind of jump across the street a little bit.
You know, trying to envision those sections and think about the use and, you know, where people are really going to walk to. You know, I definitely see the need for the sidewalks, the way our town sort of operates with the fair and a lot of activity towards Lover's Lane and the fairgrounds.
Well, you get
but then I think of that
Sunrise
next section is kind of leading up to what, the U-Haul place that's coming in up at the top of the hill.
Sunrise neighborhood to leave.
Eventually, and again, that could be part of maybe part of the Safe Streets thing, because they're going to contemplate looking at tying in the neighborhoods up on the east side of town.
And then moving on to Sawmill Road Bridge. The design is underway for the replacement of that bridge. It's being funded through the federal local bridge program. We don't have an updated estimate at this time, so I'm moving forward with the originally budgeted $340,000 local match until I get an updated estimate. I didn't want to guess on that. So I figured we would just stick with what was planned. We are approaching a point of being completed with some design studies of type of construction for the bridge, working with DOT and their liaison, and trying to determine the exact alignment of the roadway and the bridge, minimizing right-of-way impacts as well. So that's where we're a little shy of preliminary design, which would give us a better updated estimate. So carrying forward with last year's number. And there's also the potential that the timing of this may slide a little bit depending on how quickly we're able to get through the state process through approvals with our preliminary design and final design and permits. And then the next one is Farmers Wharf Bridge bulkhead. This, I believe, was a operating capital item in 2018 budget, but the project was never completed. So I reached out to the Marina Commission. I hadn't heard back from them exactly the details of cost. I did find some documentation in the engineering department that the overall estimated project cost was $90,000. I wanted to confirm with them. I hadn't heard back from them yet that they have the remaining funds to complete the project. But in good faith going forward, there is a permit application pending to be submitted to Connecticut DEEP, and it's basically they're experiencing some rusting of the sheet piling bulkhead, and they've identified a coating that can be put on from basically the low tide mark to the top, which gets exposed to oxygen in the air, and it experiences oxidation and some deterioration. So the idea is to treat that section of the bulkhead down at the marina area and the bridge to better preserve it going forward. So I put in the budget what was previously budgeted, unfortunately not used to complete the project and is no longer available. So the $35,000 is what I thought I should keep in the budget for next year, trying to achieve the project.
Now, we had an arrangement with the Marina Commission several years ago where they would contribute to the reconstruction of the bulkhead, and those monies were never officially transferred from the Marina Commission to us, so we could well have this money covered in terms of that, the balance of that transfer that they had committed to. So.
And then the next project is it's Goose Lane Survey and Environmental, and what that is $75,000 to assist the engineering department with being able to obtain a survey for Goose Lane from the intersection of Nut Plains Road down to I-95. We've secured funding through the COG, through the Lot SIP program of $2.2 million to do a reconstruction of that section of it's a local collector road in town. The engineering department will complete the design in-house, but we do need some outside services completed through, such as survey done, any environmental testing, soil testing, and wetlands flagging, things like that have to be outsourced. So figuring that we can leverage the $2.2 million construction and our soon-to-be hired new assistant town engineer and myself completing the design in-house, that we can achieve a positive project for that side of town, and that will dovetail to what was already planned is the Nut Plains Road reconstruction from that intersection north to Stepstone Hill, and that's already underway with design.
And this is for the roads that you're talking about,
right.
Not necessarily any pathway or
No, there's no pathways or
just
sidewalks
the road
included.
reconstruction.
This is a road reconstruction. We have some deteriorating areas. Some areas are better than others. If there's areas where construction is good and we just need to do a mill and overlay, that may be an option. Areas where we're having pavement degradation, we may need to include some drainage, some reconstruction of the road bed. So we're going to look at all those options for all sections of these roadways, but they are really primarily curb to curb with drainage improvements, which can bring you some horizontal and vertical changes. We have some sightline problems, little humps and things that are dangerous. Those things, once you get into those types of changes, you can affect a little bit beyond the pavement with grading off slopes and things like that. But it's really trying to stay as much within the right-of-way as we possibly can.
The grant doesn't have any expiration date or anything like that. We've got the 2.2.
It's scheduled for funding for fiscal year 19, I believe, through the COG program. So we want to get jumping on it. The Nut Plains Road funding was actually in their fiscal year 15, but we've been keeping in touch with them, and the money is still in place. Going forward, the funding is from the state through bonding. My understanding, and I'm not an expert on state budgets. I don't know if anybody is, but my understanding is the funding through fiscal year 19 is secured. It's a state bond that they're using to fund these local capital improvement projects for the towns. Where it used to be federal funds were just given to the towns to use, the state made a change to utilize those federal funds internally in the region themselves, and instead would bond these types of projects for local improvements. So it's my understanding that that's likely going to be still funded for this particular project. Beyond fiscal year 19, I think it's questionable. It's all going to be dependent on the legislature and continuing to fund the program.
Thanks.
When you're planning and designing road face, not paying claims ends up being a perfect example. Do you consult with the police department regarding traffic calming and that type of thing? Because
we first reach out to them regarding traffic accidents, any accidents, to understand where the problems are. The obvious problem there is the intersection of Nut Plains and Goose Lane. It's a free for
just
all.
that when you fix the road, sometimes it ends up being more conducive to higher speeds.
Right. And one of the things is traffic calming and making sure we're not creating, a wider, road that necessarily turns into a raceway. Yeah, and there's a commitment along those roads, particularly.
So you have discussions with.
Yeah, and it's also, we're committed to trying to maintain the trees as much as possible, which also help with some traffic calming, not opening things up. And because the funding source is locally, it's state bond money, not federal monies. The DOT does defer to the towns a lot more in terms of what our design requirements are, as opposed to like implementing something like we saw on Long Hill Road, which was a federally funded program that instills federal guidelines and requirements for design. So it gives us a little more flexibility in terms of keeping the local character of the roads.
And I just want to bring this up because I know this has come up in previous budget discussions. The methodology for Guilford getting those funds from the state is through the COG. The COG is the authorizing body relative to the distribution of the funds. Each region gets a certain allocation from the state, and then the COG splits it up amongst their 15, in our case, the 15-member towns. Both of these projects have continued to have been funded and continued through COG. In fact, we voted on Goose Lane a couple of months ago.
Yes, because we just received
Yes.
notification on
The
that.
notification.
Yeah,
So there has occasionally been a question at previous budget times, why are we paying the dues for COG? And that's the primary reason, is that if we're not in COG, we're not going to get this funding.
Right. And the prior projects that were funded through this program, I believe, were Westlake Avenue, was funded through this type of program, the reconstruction and paving of that, as well as Stepstone Hill Road. And then my final request for the next fiscal year was a late ad. I'm not sure if you have it in your packet. It was a vehicle purchase for the department.
We have it.
It's $20,000. I was hoping to get something handed down from the police department or somewhere, but so far nothing's coming through that is of roadworthiness to be able to utilize. And my understanding from talking with Public Works is that the vehicle that police department's using now, they're finding that at the end of the useful life for the police department is basically the end of the useful life of the vehicle itself. So right now I'm using a marginal car for my own use, and with the new assistant coming on board, we'll be just having one vehicle between the two of us, in which we really do need two vehicles for our department to be able to get out and look at things, plan things, meet with our residents, and work with Public Works and the other departments we work with. So I wanted to throw in the $20,000 request, and we will look for some type of used vehicle to purchase for our uses.
I know typically and I'm a beneficiary of this, I'm driving an SUV. I'm not sure I necessarily need an SUV except to get out during snowstorms, which Tom wants me to stay home anyway, get out of my way. But I've long felt that we should be starting to set the example as it relates to energy. And my wish since I got here was I wish I had an electric vehicle or a hybrid vehicle. Would you be considering a hybrid for?
Yes, I'll look into the state program to see if there's anything available for purchase through the DAS or any grants available that we can purchase something either brand new through that program, or if possibly through just a used vehicle purchase.
Okay.
Is the Prius still going?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, the planning and zoning uses that.
Yeah, I was thinking that building is.
Yeah.
And then I just wanted to, just briefly, I don't want to take up too much of your time regarding some of the future year projects, but since I'm kind of new here and I'm trying to plan things out, I did want to particularly discuss the road improvements requests, which we're skipping next year for funding because there is a fund balance for inland road reconstruction and another capital fund that has some monies in it that, talking with Tom Fillion and with Matt, we feel we have sufficient funds to get some things done next year with some of the priorities that are still out there to be completed. But going forward, I just wanted to identify the fact that we do need to continue to fund road improvements in terms of either reconstructions, rehabilitations, reclamations, milling and paving type projects, because we do have to take care of 220 miles of road in town. They've done a great job with doing that, but we do have, I'm not sure if you're aware, but there has been a pavement management program that was accomplished through the COG. That's another benefit we got. It was done a number of years ago, and it identifies kind of your priorities and what types of different applications may be necessary to maintain a good rating for your roads and your pavement. And if you stop taking care of your roads in this regard, they're just going to further deteriorate. The program's nice because it also has a built-in deterioration. So year by year, if you're keeping up with updating the things you've improved, the things you haven't done anything to, that shows a further degradation in the rating system. So when you look at what was done, they had identified if we were at a road surface rating of about 66%, okay, 100% being your best, okay, so it's okay. If we wanted to make sure we brought everything to 100%, you're looking at a $29 million project. Well, obviously we're not going to do that, but if we don't continue to fund this program going forward on a year-to-year basis, that number is going to increase, and your rating of your road surface is going to continue to decrease.
Do you have a number in mind that would be required to maintain the 66 rate?
There is a way to do that, and I haven't been able to work closely with the consultant yet to fill in what we've done. The engineering department was keeping up with this pavement management program. Unfortunately, I haven't been able to find that updated file, so we have to go in and physically update it and to identify really how do we keep that rating and not start seeing it.
And what it would cost on an annual basis.
Right,
I mean,
right.
that would be.
It's probably in excess of the $500,000, I'm sure. So I just wanted to let you know we're going to be looking into this a little deeper to be able to have better numbers for you going forward and kind of give you an idea of how you want to plan for really maintaining our roads and the condition they're in, or maybe improving it, but certainly not trying to see it continue to deteriorate because it's one of our largest assets.
Isn't it typically a 7 or 8 year cycle of going through all the roads and maintaining them?
That's
chip
just
seal.
chip seal.
Yeah,
That's
We're talking
reconstruction.
about reconstruction of the roads. Okay.
This contemplates a number of things, this program.
Okay.
What we've been doing in town is mostly a chip sealing program, talking with Tom about consideration for crack sealing programs. A lot of times you'll pave a road and you'll start seeing the cracks, seams open up or other cracks open up. If you're not treating those within 5 years, then you're going to start seeing a full degradation. So we're looking at some alternatives, and it includes from full construction, mill and overlay, some crack sealing, chip sealing, really trying to make sure we're utilizing all the different pavement management options that are out there and using the right tool on the right road too. So, and that's even with the projects I talked about earlier. If there are sections that are in good shape and have a good road base, there's no sense of reconstructing that section of the road. You can break it up into segments because obviously some of these roads are, miles long, and they're not, you're not going to do the same thing for the multi-miles of the roadway.
Can I throw a question at you right,
Sure.
right here? I was just curious, you said there's money for road improvements already. How much is available right now for
I believe there's about $1 million in, when you look at, it's the Inland Roads account, and then there was one other account that had about $100,000, I think, in it for specific road projects.
It's some of the bonds that we have done over the past couple of years. That money we're working through first before we.
And there's a list of roads for which those were described to be used. So we'll get you a copy of those.
Oh, and you think you'll probably burn through $1 million this next fiscal?
Well, Tom will be sure to. He'll be up.
I'm sure he'd like to talk to that. Did you want me to go through any of the future year, further out ones, or?
I think we're okay.
Okay.
We've got it here for documentation purposes. So,
the only one I wanted to mention was the wash bay for the DPW.
Yes,
there's already been money allocated to that, but we're pushing out 1 year. I think it was already in the plan to kind of keep it pushed out while we look at some of the facilities items. And Tom and I may have duplicated this item because we tried to coordinate. But
that's right. Well, and again, I appreciate that comment because this is the first year in many that we've split these two departments out, engineering and public works. And I have to say the two, both Janice and Tom, have been working tremendously well together. I think a couple of sets of eyes is really going to make a difference here on this. And I also want to just tee up the wash bay